Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PC Gamer Show. My name is Tom Marks.
Tom?
It's not Tom.
Tom, you look different.
I know. I'm on this new diet, red meat, only red meat, no water. No, my name is James Davenport. Tom's out in London. He's on vacation after some hard work at the PC Gamer Weekender. And he left me in charge of this thing, so let's hope I don't run it into the ground. I need you two to help carry me.
I have high hopes.
And the two who will help carry me are Bo Moore, technology editor. How you doing, Bo?
I'm doing well. How about yourself, James?
Oh, gosh, so good.
Glad to be back here with
so
you.
Good. And we got Steven Messner over here.
Hello.
Contributing editor
Hi.
at PCGamer.com. How you doing, Steven?
I'm doing so good. I'm real excited to be here.
Gosh.
I'm going to be the guy that brings the level,
Bring
the energy
the
level.
You're
noise
the excited
to the
guy.
show.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm the
yeah,
hype
there's
guy.
there are like podcast archetypes, and I'm feeling Steve, you're the energy guy. Bo, who are you in the podcast character?
Bo is
I
the
don't
guy
know.
that you can tell is handsome just by his voice.
There you
Yeah,
go.
clearly.
He's the well-dressed one. He's just like he speaks clearly, and he has a lot of interesting things to say.
Sometimes I say words.
And me, I don't know. I'm just I'm the idiot.
The wisecracking level.
No. You're like the really down, like chilled dude, but
chill
you
dude.
would give anything. You'd give your left arm to have a beer with that guy.
Oh, Steven. Jeez. Well, we'll be having beer soon with at GDC.
That's right, next
but,
week.
We'll have a lot to say about that next week. This week, we have some other stuff going on. We're going to open up with Now Playing, as we always do, and we've been playing a lot. I can tell you that. There's a lot coming out. Steven, you're going to run us through your ARC role-playing, and I don't know whether to call it adventure or misadventure.
I think it's definitely a misadventure.
I think it's a misadventure. That thing went sideways.
Yeah. But either way, we're going to have you run through that, and kind of, I think we can talk about role-playing in general, because it's a pretty interesting way to play. And a lot of games enable it nowadays in pretty interesting ways, so we'll do that. Bo, you're going to give us your Overwatch update.
Yes, as always, I have been playing Overwatch and pretty much nothing but Overwatch. But there is a lot going on in the Overwatch world these days, so I've got a lot to update you all on.
That game, a lot of people play that game, including myself.
Overwatch.
And I think it's doing pretty well. I don't know the numbers, but it's
More
got a
than 25
steady
million,
player base,
I believe,
I guess.
sold.
Yeah. So we'll
Quite a
be
few.
diving into that. And we're also going to pitch some video game movies. And it's going to go poorly, I'm almost certain. But after seeing some news on the Metal Gear Solid movie, which is still in the works, I figured, hey, let's talk about that briefly. And, let's see what kind of ideas we can come up with.
But listen, we're living in a world where the Emoji Movie is coming out this year. I think we could probably pitch some decent video game movie ideas.
Well, we'll see how it goes. And then we'll be doing our usual Twitch chat Q&A session. So start thinking about questions you have and get them ready and loaded up for that. But first, I want to know, what have you guys been playing, Bo? What you been playing, man?
I've been playing pretty much just Overwatch.
Oh, jeez.
That's all I do these days.
It's all right.
What else have I been playing? So I loaded up a game of the Long War, the XCOM 2 mod,
Oh, right.
and got almost nowhere in it. I started playing and was like, I love this game.
Yeah.
But actually, what I think did me in is I love that game, but I always. It's such a time sink. It's like XCOM alone is a time sink, and then the Long War is times 1,000.
Absolutely.
And just I was already kind of on the fence about being all right, do I want to really dive into this or not? And then I was playing the second mission, and I made one wrong move, and my entire squad died. I was like, you know what? I'm out. I'm done.
Is it much more punishing than vanilla XCOM 2?
It is.
Okay.
I don't really know because I didn't get that far into it, and also I play on easy because I'm terrible and I just kind of want to wreck everyone. I don't think I particularly found it super more punishing, at least in the early stages. I think it's more so that So I played a lot of the Long War in XCOM 1, and it was definitely more punishing. Just like everything happens slower. All of your research, all of your soldier recovery, more than anything, that really does you in, taking just weeks or months for your soldiers to recover from injuries instead of like hours or days. But with the mission still coming at like the same rate, then you can quickly run out of soldiers.
I have a question for you, Bo.
Yes.
As I loved XCOM 2, but I have not paid even the faintest attention to the Long War. As the sort of the playing the role of the ignorant person, what's the pitch for that mod? Why would I install it?
So basically, with the Long War, it like, I don't know if you would really call it a total conversion mod because it doesn't like actively change the game too much. Not at least in the ways that like some total conversion mods take a game and like totally reskin it as something else. With the Long War and XCOM 2's Long War 2, it really just adds a lot in the way of mechanics to the game. You get different soldier classes, a lot more. I think there's some more varied enemy encounters. The main thing is in like the progression system of your soldiers, and I didn't get far enough into it to really experience this, but I believe in the Long War 2 at least, they sort of reframed a little bit of how the mission structure happens. The gist I got from our write-up actually, which I was hoping to get to when I played it, was that the missions kind of come at you in a way where you can much more pick and choose the ones to go to, and more importantly, like passing up on a mission wasn't totally devastating. In some XCOM games, it felt a lot like, if I don't do this, I'm going to be really severely like just murdered for it, basically. And this, I think, puts it much more in the vein of if you're say offered 2 or 3 missions and passing on one, instead of you being punished for passing on it, it means you just don't get the rewards for it.
Okay.
So it puts you at more of a 0 point than at like a negative point.
That's interesting.
And in that vein, another thing that the Long War does is, for every mission that pops up, you have to like send a squad to infiltrate the mission before you can actually go on the mission. And if you send like a small squad of like 3 or 4 people, the infiltration will go much quicker. And the longer you spend on the infiltration cycle or whatever, phase, I guess it would be, the less enemies are in the actual mission itself. The flip side being you can send like a big 10 or 12-man squad, but the infiltration will take a really long time, so you don't have much time to actually do that phase, which means you'll have a bigger squad, but there will be more enemies there.
Right.
So you can kind of balance out that, do I want to send a small like elite strike force or like a big group of kind of weaker guys, or a mixture there?
Cool.
That sounds cool.
It definitely mixes up
I'm
the game in a way that, if you enjoy the game, if you enjoy XCOM, and you're looking for a way, like a reason to play it again, it's definitely a good reason to do so.
It's just an XCOM 2 remix, rip remix.
Oh god,
like that.
Steven. I got Well, how much time do we have left? Hour and 20 minutes. All right.
Oh, you're stuck with me.
Real quickly, I want to get to a couple subscribers. Has Muffins just subscribed for 5 months in a row. That's bonkers. Gabriel GRC78 just subscribed, so welcome. Welcome to the family, son. Nick Warrior 5 just subscribed for 2 months in a row, so we appreciate that, you guys. Anything else, Bo?
Yeah, that's mainly it. After my failed mission and throwing my arms up in frustration, I went straight back to Overwatch, which we will get to more of later in the show.
Overwatch doesn't die. JBJ Blaze always makes fun of us in the chat for mentioning it once an episode, but here we are. It's its own topic again. Deal with it. But Steven, what about you,
Hello.
man? What kind of wacky stuff you up to?
So I think like the only thing I've really been playing almost exclusively the last few weeks has been For Honor.
Hey, me too.
Nice.
Yeah, I have a feeling that we're gonna have very differing opinions on it based on some of your tweets. Okay, so like I'm in this weird place with For Honor right now
Yeah.
because I really enjoyed it at launch.
Yeah.
And the last few times I've played it, I have been like hands in the air frustrated with that game.
How so? Like,
Are-
what's your problem with it? Because
So
I'm frustrated with it too. But
okay. So I mean, obviously, I don't want to talk about all of like the bloat that surrounds it because
Sure.
that's the whole thing that game just has way too much to it that it doesn't need. But I've just been finding like the combat really has lost its satisfaction for me, in the sense that like it's still like the foundations there are still incredible. I think it's probably one of like on a theoretical level, it's like still one of the coolest sword fighting games I've ever played. But I don't know if it's like networking issues or if it's just my own skill and I've reached some weird kind of skill ceiling that I kind of am struggling to break through. But I'm playing these matches again and again and again, mostly just duels or brawls. And I'm just finding it like there's just these little annoyances where I feel like it's almost clumsy, the action, and it's not as precise as I thought it was at first. Are you encountering this at all?
I mean, how many hours have you played? Because I don't really know.
Probably about 20.
Okay, it's about twice as much as I have then. So I haven't experienced. I haven't played enough to really peg that down yet.
Right.
But there are times where I wonder what the fuck is happening and whether or not like, did I press the counter at the right time or like there's no clear indication to like when I should be doing certain things and there's some like weird toe-to-toe feedback like response.
Exactly.
Like I don't know. It gets kind of messy from time to time, but I don't know if that's just because I'm still sort of fresh. But
No, like I'm. That's what I'm feeling like I'm running into. And there was sort of like this, like a week ago when I was still really learning it and learning to like grasp the timing. I was kind of having these, really awesome, satisfying moments where like something would click, like someone would try and stun me or whatever, and I would do that stun break, and I'd be like, oh, I fucking did it. And then now I'm running into these issues. So I play as a warden. That's my main. It's like this big, broad sword wielding knights. And against certain matchups, I just feel like I have no options. And maybe that's just a limitation of the class, but like against there's like the counterattacking samurai, not like the main one that you get for free, but one of the ones you have to unlock, and he's really speedy. And he's challenging. Like I like playing against him because it's cool that like he'll swing. He looks like he's swinging left, but he's actually swinging right, and you really have to. Yeah, you have to really pay attention to like what the block meter is telling you, not what like their body language is telling you. But there's just times where like, I don't know, I find like it's almost unfair, some of these matchups I'm going into, because I'll try and do like a stun on him and I'll do like a little shoulder charge to stun him. And because he's in the middle of one of his animations, that stun like connects, but it just does nothing. And then he can immediately follow up with like 3 or 4 blows that I feel like I'm trying to block, and it's just there's like these little, I don't know, I felt like the fundamentals were there, but now that I'm digging deeper into the nuances, I'm finding like there's problems at least.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think like my main issues come from strange matchups, and it feels like it was a game that I envisioned as something I would want to play in more of a duels, like 2v2 format that feels balanced for something like the Dominion mode, where certain characters have roles and like advantages and disadvantages for like certain matchups against like multiple people, and yeah, when it comes to like Orochi, I think is who you're talking about.
Yes,
everyone loves fucking Orochi, and whoever the big fat guy is who can break your back and suck your health out. I forgot his name, but
in one move, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think my issues, like, and I'm still at a point where I'm not sure. Okay, is it because I don't know these characters well enough that they're wrecking me, and I don't understand my character well enough to know my strengths and how I can properly counter them? Because the game, I mean, I'm not surprised that's an issue. Because maybe the game is severely imbalanced. And well, I mean, it's new, it's fresh, so it probably still has a lot of kinks to work out. But it also
Sure.
does not teach you how to play almost any of the characters very well at all. You have to dig
Right.
through menus and menus to find even a fucking video that
Well, and the
teaches you
video
combos. Yeah.
is the worst tutorial ever.
awful.
That video presentation.
Yeah, because I've been sticking with my, I forget his name all the time. The Conqueror, the Vanguard Viking guy, just the big axe wielding dude. And I was like, man, I cannot counter any of these fast, like moving, like the Berserker or Orochi or any of these guys. Like I'm just fucked when it comes to someone who's faster than me, because my swings are slow and they can dodge out of the way, and like I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Until I like dug through menus and like did some Googling and yada yada, I found that my character is a stun character, and I don't like earn my bear trap until, you know, I get to the last tier of my last skill after playing for 10 hours, and that I can do these stun combos, and that you can do feints, and that you can do all these things that psych out the other players. It doesn't teach any of that very well at all.
No.
And maybe through the campaign is what some people have told me, but I mean, the campaign is like a 6-hour tutorial in that regard. Then, like, I don't want to do that. Just teach me, give me a video or something.
Right. Yeah. So I think for me, like, I'm certainly having that same issue. Like the Vanguard or the Warden, who's a Vanguard class, has the same sort of buildup where she's really reliant on stuns. And I have almost, like, I think it's almost an infinite combo in the sense where I can stun, do 2 hits, stun again, do 2 hits. So the problem I'm having, in one of the issues where I'm like, these controls just feel kind of, I don't know, like fumbly, or whatever word I'm looking for, is I'm pressing the buttons. I know I'm pressing the buttons, but for some reason my character just doesn't respond to my input. And I'm like, am I getting the timing wrong on this? Like sometimes, so like the Warden, for example, is supposed to always get a free hit on their second light attack. It's always just supposed to be a free hit. But there's just times where they only swing once, even though I'm like spamming the light attack button. And I just don't get what's going on there. So I think for me, like with all the other issues that game obviously has, like the matchmaking is terrible. I spent hours yesterday trying to complete one of the orders where it was, kill 8 people in an elimination game. But the elimination is bundled up with the other skirmish game mode. And so I was queuing for both of them, could not get into elimination for like 2 hours. I just kept getting put in skirmish games, which were not doing anything for me. And I just hated it. So I think like the momentum on that game is slowly starting to give way to just all of its little tiny problems that are just starting to stack up for me. Yeah. So I don't know.
I think that game could benefit from just slimming down a lot. It just needs to focus on teaching you its language, like its visual language, and how to play each character and like what each character is for. Because I mean, there's all these menus and sub-menus and this what the fuck is the metagame? The stupid territory claiming thing that no one cares about, right?
I kind of wish that For Honor was like a Nidhogg indie game where it had this combat system, it had its classes, and that was it.
Same. The yellow, or excuse me, the orange and the blue team colors evoke Rocket League for me, and I just want like a menu. I want to play this mode. I want to matchmake into it. Everyone has like the same, there's no like loot or any of that shit. Just
right. Like I don't want to make assumptions on Ubisoft's behalf at all.
Is there not just like a basic arena mode where like a 3v3 jump in and kill each other or something?
Kinda, but it's still weighted down with like this like lame loot system. It's like the quick match mode has like loot levels, so you have to still be equipping your character, else you're just going to be outpaced by characters with better gear. And so like it really, no assumptions made on Ubisoft's part, but to me it kind of feels like they came up with this really amazing core concept, but then it's like, well, yeah, but how do we make this a $60 value with DLC and all that stuff? So then you're like, well, we have to invent this loot system and this faction meta game, and all of this extra weight, where I'm like, no, I just want Nidhogg, but with like 3 directions to block. That's all I wanted. Yeah. So
I'm with you, man. I think why I like it so much, regardless, is that I'm just surprised. A, it doesn't feel like anything I've played before. B, it has more depth and it's more fun to play than I thought it could be, and I just think I see a lot of potential in that, because I am not a fighting game guy like at all. And someone was saying, yeah, it's just like it feels like a Nidhogg in 3D, and I can really get behind that. Was that you, Bo, said that? I don't know who said that.
I think you said that.
Did I say that? Oh my god. Steve, did you play anything else besides For Honor?
No, just For Honor. I also want to say, like, I've been enjoying this game. I think right now I'm kind of like the honeymoon phase wore off on it.
Sure.
And so now I'm just a little bit angry at it. So, I mean, maybe revisit my opinion in like 2 weeks and see if it's kind of mellowed out a bit more.
Right on.
But right now I'm a little bit frustrated with that game.
Fair enough, man. Love takes time. Real quick, we got a couple subscribers. Diego Say Valassen. I'm sorry, guys. Twitch names are hard sometimes. Just subscribe, so welcome. We have, I think, Jules. Did I see Jules subscribe down here again? Jules. Yeah, Jules M.
Jules M for
What's up,
4
Jules?
months. And I think I saw Turdog in there too.
Turdog.
For, 7
Turdog.
months.
Flaxcam. Turdog was 7 months. We got some real loyal folks around here. Join the family.
They're good people.
Yeah. And if you guys haven't seen it yet, just a quick reminder, I think the info is in our channel bio or description. You can join our Discord group where we're getting a lot of regulars, and it's a good time. There's a regular chat happening all the time. We're playing with listeners all the time now. It's good fun.
Come hang out.
Yeah. On my front, I mean, For Honor was the other big one. But I've been playing this game, which I'm just absolutely in love with. Have you guys heard of this? Night in the Woods.
I have not. Tell us about it, James.
Night in the Woods is a game where you play as a cat person
Sold.
that dropped out of college and returned to their small town of Possum Springs. And Possum Springs or Spring, I don't know if it's singular or not, is a kind of a typical post-industrial Midwestern town where once there was a mill or a metal plant of some kind, and there is no longer, right? And so it's, if you've ever driven through a small Midwest town or lived in one like I did, well, Montana, when the mill shut down, guys, it was rough. You'll see, there's all these houses boarded up and businesses closing or being taken over by. There's this great line of dialogue in there, or recurring joke, where I forget the names of these stores are all after animals. So one's called like, oh God, what do they call it? The Food Donkey is like the grocery store, and it got replaced by a Food Falcon. I don't remember. It's like
Falcon,
which is a fancier, and there's like a ham. I don't know. I wish I wrote that down, but. It's very funny, and it's structured here. I'll get a trailer up for you guys who are watching. It's structured in sort of a side-scrolling platformer-y format, and it's has art done by Scott Benson and some others, I believe, who are just amazing animators. It feels like something you could see in a short film or its own like cartoon show. And you just kind of traverse this town. You meet up with old friends, and you see how different they are, how different you've become, and it's interspersed with a lot of just really charming, just incredible writing that I think is as deep and on par with anything you'd see in like an Obsidian RPG or. Like an NXL RPG, because
Nice.
There's just so much of it. Almost everywhere you go, there's dialogue written that, and several layers of it. So you'll walk up to a building, and there will be a little icon that pops up, and you press a button, and May will say something about it, have an internal monologue about it. And you can do that 3 or 4 times on like a single object. And she'll make jokes or give you insight into the history of Possum Springs. And it's just bonkers how much there is in this game that sort of has this presentation of a cute side-scrolly cat game, right? And on the way, you do a lot of things. Like there's a lot of strange mini games. There's no like true like mechanical goal. Like it's a platformer. You can jump around as her and hop on telephone poles and mailboxes and and fences, and it's like satisfying to get to and fro. But you're never like performing platforming challenges or anything like that. It's just meant to feel good while you get from dialogue point to dialogue point or scene to scene. And some of the mini games you do are, like you saw in the trailer there, you play bass in a band with your friends, and you do these kind of rock bandy things. But the songs have lyrics written out that are just cute as hell. And in one instance, there's a shoplifting mini game. So you go with your friend to the old mall, and there's basically a Hot Topic stand-in, right? And you reminisce about the Hot Topic. Did you guys ever shop at Hot Topic? Was that it? Steven, I feel like you had a Hot Topic stand.
Did I ever?
You give me a Hot Topic vibe.
It's like you don't even know me.
When I was in high school, which is the time when you go to Hot Topic, Hot Topic was still like a goth store. And it had not yet transformed into like nerd culture store.
Right. So you go to a Hot Topic and you reminisce about stuff, and you do this shoplifting mini game, and all the while you're getting great dialogue between you and an old friend, and you're learning about what's changed with them, and you're putting a belt buckle into your pocket when the person's not looking with this like really dopey cat hand that they animate. You gaze at the stars with your old astronomy teacher, and he teaches you about constellations, and there's this whole mythology in the background of this cat game where you find a constellation, he'll tell you the story that they must have a textbook on somewhere, the developers, with an entire like mythos behind this this place. And when you have dialogue with characters, you are sometimes given options with what to say, or with yourself even. There's a part where May is about to go to a party in the woods at night, and you get to stare in the mirror and basically pick your insecurities, right? So May is looking at herself and saying like, oh, my eyes are nightmare eyes, or my ears, that one bad ear I have, or whatever. I don't know about you guys, but like, especially, I don't know, if you're a self-conscious type, like I'm sure we've all done something similar like that, and you can kind of reflect your own insecurities on that, or role play May if you want. And it comes back later when you go to the party. She gets drunk, talks to her ex-boyfriend, and says all these things out loud that she was feeling, and your insecurities are reflected in that that you chose for her. And it's just like a small thing that has no real consequence, but adds some sort of your own investment in her character through the story. Most bizarre about this game is just how much there is to it besides the writing, is that there's a game in the game on her computer. There's this game called Demon Tower, and I ended up playing Demon Tower for about an hour and a half on its own, thinking it would be a mini game that just kind of ends. But
it just kept going.
No, it's this layer by layer. It's this sort of like top-down dungeon crawler where you find a key on one floor, fight enemies along the way, and then use the key for the boss door to fight a boss. And each of the bosses have their own art and animation. Each floor has its own song, and every song is fucking rad.
So basically, like way more than you would expect from like this game within a game.
This game, I'm just so surprised because I think a lot of people will look at this game and say, "Oh, it's an indie game," or it's like it looks cute, it looks fun, it'll tell me a story. But I'm just kind of blown away with how much it's packing, and not just how much it's packing, but like the quality of writing and the depth of character. And just, it's been so goddamn surprising to me. And I only played it for like 2 hours last night. I'm just like dying.
An hour and a half of that was apparently in Demon Tower.
Okay, about 3 hours. Because, and I'm just kind of blown away. And I really think if you like narrative games, or if you like dungeon crawlers, get Night in the Woods 4 Demon Tower. But it's really, I think, something special that people should be thinking about and talking about.
Sounds really cool.
So
you sold me. I'm like 100% on board with everything you said.
So I just had to wax on about that game for a bit.
I want to look in a mirror and feel self-conscious.
It'll take you back, man.
I don't get enough of that in real life.
If you grew up in if you grew up in a small town, it's one to watch. We're gonna move on from that because I could go on forever about Night in the Woods. But on to a different kind of role playing instead of a Hot Topic team.
That's right.
Steven, you recently wrote about and live streamed a venture in which you role played.
Quite an adventure.
Yeah, on an Ark server. Can you kind of give us a
happened.
rundown of kind of what your setup was, what you're going into it, and kind of
walk us through it.
Yeah, take us.
Okay,
Take us
so yeah, so like I'm sure many of you, I didn't realize that Ark Survival Evolved had become sort of this haven for role-playing communities until I was browsing around the internet one day and I came across a role-play server and was like, what, people role-play in Ark? So I dug a little bit more and I found that there's this huge community of people that role-play on Ark. There's like hundreds of servers probably, and some of them are really large. And so I just immediately was like, I need to figure out what this shit is all about. So I registered with a server. I had to get whitelisted to get in there. There was a whole process. I had to read like 4 pages of rules. It was crazy about things I'm not allowed to do as a role player. And I got into this game and I live streamed on the PC Gamer Twitch. So when we're done watching this, don't do it now. I swear to God, don't do it now. When this live stream is over, you can go into the video section and find it's broken up into 3 separate broadcasts of me for 7 hours. I role played in Ark and it was a trip. I was real Alice in Wonderland there. So I went onto this server. I was role playing as Laz Astros, a grizzly voiced bartender who
he did the fucking voice. I can't believe he did the voice. It's so good, guys.
I lost it as the stream went on because I was just so overwhelmed that I eventually forgot to stay sort of in that character. But anyway, I went into this server not knowing what to expect. Honestly, I had actually sort of delayed doing this project for a couple weeks because I was just so nervous about doing this and like didn't know what to expect. It was just one of those dumb things that you get a hang up about sometimes in your life. You're like, I got to do this one chore and you're just like, oh, I don't want to. But I finally got in there and it was honestly better than I could have ever hoped or imagined. So right off the bat, I meet this character. Her name's Em. She saved me from getting eaten by dinosaurs because I hadn't played Ark in a while, and I was getting my ass mauled. And so she saved me and whisked me away. And it was crazy because one moment I'm naked and starving, being chased by raptors on a beach, and about 5 minutes later, I am in this like beach bar drinking mojitos with like a girl with bat wings.
My favorite part in Jurassic Park.
Yeah, and they're like asking me about what I remember before arriving on the island, and I'm just making it up off the top of my head because I don't know. And and so it really that night just. It really reminded me of those nights, like, movies, there's like The Hangover or like Eight Crazy Nights. There's these movies that try and epitomize like this one crazy night where all the coolest shit happens to you. That I had that experience inside of an Ark role-playing server because so we're drinking. And as we're hanging out and whatever, and I'm kind of getting acquainted with the island and the local culture, so to speak, more players are kind of filing into this bar, and we're all hanging around. I asked for a job as a bartender, so I'm behind the bar just role-playing a bar. Oh, what are you having? Like giving people mojitos and doing shots on the bar. Are
mojitos the only drink that you can drink in Ark?
No, so they have mods that like allow them to add a bunch of stuff. So mojitos is the only one I can remember. There was another one that was a sex on a beach, but it wasn't sex. It was something else. Some like
Rex on a beach.
I hope it was Rex on a beach.
If it wasn't, fucking delete
That's
it.
amazing.
Missed opportunity.
So when I realized that this night was going to take a really weird turn, is the girl who saved me, Em, was this fantastic character that she played. So everyone around me is role playing these different characters, and hers was like this really insanely giggly kind of Harlequin type with without like the like the sexuality aspect of it. Sure. But she had this weird game called Party Time where she would throw gas grenades she would yell party time, throw gas grenades into a crowd of people, and whoever didn't run away fast enough would get knocked unconscious. And then she would drag their bodies places and like fuck with them. And the first time it happened, it's like really disconcerting because you're like, this kind of feels creepy. So the second time it happens, I'm behind the bar and I try and run away. I don't make it away in time. I pass out. My screen goes black. I'm like role playing like confused noises, like just into the microphone because I'm trying to be a good role player here. And I can hear them talking and I'm not really paying attention to what they're saying. And suddenly my character comes to, and it was like a high schooler's, like an insecure high schooler's or an introvert's worst nightmare, because I come to and I'm standing on a stage inside the bar and there's a crowd of people sitting on sofas below me and they're like, sing karaoke for us. And I just am like, oh my God, like they just fucking sabotaged me. Like they knew I'm the new guy here and they're hazing me.
You got hit with the party time grenade.
Yeah, it's party time. So I didn't know what to do. And like, if you watch this stream, you can tell that I'm genuinely uncomfortable by this moment. And I start freezing and locking up being like, well, what song do I sing? And I couldn't think of anything that I knew the lyrics to except for Celine Dion's My Heart Will Go On was the only song. Embarrassing confession. Sometimes I sing it alone in the car when I'm bored. So have that song on lockdown. And I sang Celine Dion in front of a crowd of role-playing strangers in an ARC role-playing server. And it only got more bizarre than that. It was just, it's hard to tell people and give them the full sense of everything that happened without them watching it, because it's almost incoherent, me recounting how like one crazy adventure just led to another crazy adventure, led to another crazy adventure. But I mean, like, at one point I became the prime suspect in a stripper's murder because so it's Valentine's Day, right? It's Valentine's Day on the ARC role-playing server. People had been making jokes in the chat about getting married to someone or like, going on a role-playing date or something. And so I meet this girl, her name's Allison, and she's a stripper. And I'm like, I found it. This is whatever. At one point she's talking to this other girl about like the single people on the island, who's single on the island, and my name comes up as the bartender, and she's like, oh, he's single. And so she invites me to go on this walk, and I'm like, oh, I'm in, like, this is perfect. I'm gonna go on this role-playing date on Valentine's Day. Could my life get any sadder? And oh boy. And we go up to the top of this tower. This guy named Zeke let us in because the doors were locked, so the three of us go.
Zeke.
You gotta have a guy named Zeke.
Yeah.
Go up to the top of this tower. I'm getting a little bit jealous because Allison's kind of cuddling up next to Zeke and they're having a really good conversation. And I'm like the awkward third wheel. Now I'm like, this was supposed to be my date. And so I'm looking out at the view and suddenly Allison, her voice just gets like really far away really quickly. And I turn around and she's just not there. And I look at Zeke and I'm just like, did she just fall off the tower? And he's just, yeah. And I look down and there's just, Allison had really vibrant red hair. It was like Tris Marigold. And I just see it splayed out on the sand. And it was just, oh my God, Allison just killed herself. She just fell off that tower, dude. And so we parachute down and sure enough, this is the clip. Sure enough, Allison is dead. And it couldn't have been timed more perfectly because then I'm like, I had this weird thing where anytime we found a dead person, I would make the other role players have to have a ceremony, like an impromptu ceremony. I did it once early in the stream and I could tell it was making people really uncomfortable. So I kept doing it. So I was like, Zeke, you have to say some words, man. We have to, have a little ceremony for her death. And he was like, okay, you go first. So I went first. And just as I finished saying like, rest in peace, Allison, the rest of the group comes running up and they're like, well, what do we have here? And I suddenly realized that we're standing over a dead stripper. I have all of her items in my backpack because I was genuinely trying to be the nice person and thought I would give them to someone else or to her when she respawned or something. And people just accused me of murder. And that still wasn't the most ridiculous thing that happened that night. It was just one ridiculous moment after another. So role-playing on ARC is honestly the only way I will ever play ARC again. I'm genuinely serious. I've been back a few more times and I've had just as much fun. And I don't think I could ever play ARC like the normal way because role-playing just adds so much more to the experience. If you can kind of get into it, it's really ridiculous. It's absurd. Twitch RP is a lot more of a lighthearted sort of almost comedy server in a sense. Like a lot of people are playing comedic characters. I went back one night and there was a male stripper. It was Allison's business partner named Van. And He was a super chill dude. He gave me mushrooms, and we took mushrooms together and went on a trip. So it's a very interesting server.
Yeah, and I think like people give like Ark a lot of crap for just being like another survival game, right? But I think it's also one of the survival games with the most like systems and recipes and so on, and like modding opportunities available. So like it as a role playing game, period, it seems like super suited for that. Just about anything you want to do, and I'm glad it
gives you a lot of possibility there.
Yeah.
Well, and with modding too, right? Because there's all the third-party mods, and that server used a fairly large amount of them to add things like mojitos aren't in vanilla Ark. Hate to break it to you. The thought that I kept having that really stood out to me, and hopefully maybe other people can sympathize or relate to this, is I grew up being like the MMO guy. I'm still kind of the MMO guy at PC Gamer. I'm the one that just loves MMOs. But I'm deeply dissatisfied by like the current landscape of that genre and just what MMOs have become versus what they were back in the 90s and early 2000s, when they were really sort of about immersing yourself in this world and exploring and kind of, just existing in there versus like just trying to get the next piece of loot for your gear. So you can fight the next boss and then just add like rinse and repeat ad nauseum. And playing Ark so many times while role playing, I kept having this overwhelming feeling of being back and like playing EverQuest as a kid, or playing like RuneScape, any of those MMOs, even, the first time I played World of Warcraft, and just feeling totally lost and overwhelmed, but also so excited by this world I was taking part in. And because Ark has so much depth to it, like with like the way gear works and the crafting recipes and building your home, it really felt sort of like, oh my gosh, like I've been trying to find this like next gen quote unquote MMO experience for years now. I've been really dissatisfied with the MMOs I've been trying, and Ark kind of unexpectedly like hit that nerve for me, and I was really excited by that.
Well, damn, that's so good to hear. I mean, at the very least, even if MMOs are sort of have lost their way for you, at least like it seems something is sort of naturally emerging from survival games and more sandboxy games as a result of that.
Yeah, I definitely can echo those sentiments of like the feeling of early MMOs, that like total wonder and exploration and having no idea what's going on, and like even if you could look up a guide, it was still really thin, and it's just like go here and you run across the desert for an hour and try and find this one cave.
Right.
And yeah, I haven't really played any survival games like that, but hearing you talk about them with that kind of same feeling of the early MMOs, like that's the thing that's made me more interested than anything else before, potentially in a survival game.
Yeah, the only thing is like you're gonna have to kind of embrace the absurdity of role playing. Oh, especially over voice. I mean, that adds a whole new element versus just text-based role-playing. It's like you have to act out this character. I would totally understand that if you're someone that like lives with a partner who doesn't play games, or you have a roommate who doesn't play games, that would be a really weird thing to walk in on you doing like a cowboy accent, like, what are you buying?
I'd be into that. But cool. Hey, next time you role-play and stream it, please let us know. Let the whole world know, because I have saved that clip of you singing Celine Dion to my hard drive, and I have it saved on my Dropbox just in case something happens.
That's the highest honor.
I need it. Yeah, well, thanks for sharing, Steven.
Cool.
Let's move on to a different topic. Boverwatch.
That's me.
What's going on? What's up with this game?
There's a lot going on in the world of Overwatch. I don't even know where to start. Really.
Well, let's start from the top with at least the biggest recent news.
The biggest recent news, yes. So there is very likely a new hero coming to Overwatch in the near future. We don't know anything about the exact date or timing or anything, but as of yesterday, a blog post went up on the Blizzard Overwatch blog. It was an in-universe blog post, so they tend to do this before new character announcements. And this in-universe blog post was an interview with Effie Oladele. I'm probably pronouncing that totally wrong, but she's an 11-year-old robotics and AI genius, just received some prestigious genius grant for her advancements and achievements in robotics and AI. This is a picture of her we have pulled up here from this in-universe blog post. And, you know, all signs point to this basically being the first tease of a potential new character. What we don't know is whether or not Effie here is the actual 24th hero of Overwatch or not.
Right.
What's much more likely is that she is either so a lot of people have talked about how it's highly unlikely that Blizzard will send an 11-year-old girl into the battlefield.
Here's a gun, kid. And then,
Probably not going to happen. Also, it would be kind of unlikely that they would straight up reveal the character before the character is actually revealed. In these past teases, it'll usually be surrounding characters to the actual hero that get teased in these in-universe blog posts. So the stuff that's much more likely is, given her this character's affinity and ability with robotics, the actual hero is likely going to be either something that she has created, some sort of robot or possibly Omnic,
Bastion
or
love
maybe
interest?
could be a Bastion love interest, you know. So a lot of people are saying maybe it would be really cool if she's kind of like a puppet master type character that maybe like sits in the spawn room and controls drones out on the battlefield. There's been a bit of speculation that the character will be some type of spider tank. There was a leak back in January from somebody claiming to have information about upcoming Overwatch content that at the time most people kind of ignored. However, most of the other stuff in this leak has now kind of come true.
All right.
It had information about the Lunar New Year event, and a little bit about. It said that there was going to be a short about May's backstory, but we haven't had that yet. But basically, nothing that in that leak has been disproven so far. And the leak basically said that the hero is going to be from Nimbani, which Effie is, and will be some type of spider tank type character. Likely a tank character, as a lot of people have speculated that it will be a tank character even before the Effie announcement. A lot of people thought it was going to be Doomfist was the potential next character. Doomfist being on the Nimbani map, and from one of the Overwatch shorts. I think it was actually the original theatrical trailer.
Yeah, there was his little fist.
They talk about Doomfist being this person who could level a building in a single punch or something. Very, very powerful character, but I believe the power of Doomfist largely comes from the Doomfist Gauntlet, which is what is on display in Nimbani. The actual Nimbani payload of that map, you're escorting the Doomfist Gauntlet to the museum exhibit. So yeah, there was a lot of speculation that Doomfist would be the next character. However, that now seems to be a little bit, not to say that Doomfist isn't still coming, just not this next character. We had a kind of similar situation back before Anna was announced. A lot of people thought that Sombra was going to be the next character, and then Anna kind of came out of nowhere, whereas Sombra did eventually, come out several months after that. So this feels sort of similar, that I have no doubt that we will see a Doomfist hero at some point in the future, but this is likely not him. Unless, of course, one of Effie's robots picks up the Doomfist Gauntlet, and then we have some kind of combo there.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, there's been a lot of speculation on this front, so definitely check out like the Overwatch subreddit and the Blizzard forums for people going all sorts of in-depth on these topics.
Overwatch, or excuse me, PCGamer.com/Overwatch.
Oh yeah,
but
we got a lot of talk about it there.
So, question about this the Overwatch meta, as they call it. What kind of gap do you think this new character is meant to plug or role is meant to fulfill in the current meta?
Yeah, so in the Overwatch meta, the biggest thing missing right now is an alternative main tank.
Okay.
There's, the last two characters to come were Anna, a new support healer character, and then Sombra, a new kind of offense. She's classified as offense, but she's more of a hybrid DPS support type character. But even through the diva buffs and nerfs and buffs and back and forth, the biggest thing that the meta is missing is a real alternative to Reinhardt. Reinhardt is really pretty much an essential character in almost all team compositions. You'll see him being picked not only at the pro level where he's picked in competitive matches way more than most other heroes, but all the way through, Reinhardt is basically just an essential character to a solid team composition. And because all the other tank characters, they're much more of off tanks or kind of half tanks that have these supporting abilities, but there's nobody with a big blocking shield that can really provide the cover and central focal point of a team that you really need. So, assuming the hero is a tank hero, which is almost certain, within the tank class, a main tank is what a lot of people are hoping for.
Cool. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm hoping we hear something soon. I hope we don't have another Sombra
ARG on our hands. The good news on that front is that Blizzard has been relatively vocal, saying that they heard the very vocal feedback of the community and have really taken it to heart, saying that they did not want another Sombra ARG on their hands, which, for those of you unfamiliar, was a very long-running and totally drawn-out ARG that was a whole lot of nothing.
You would have to be pretty blind to not know that, to not think that doing that again would be a good idea. Like, you would have to be clueless.
I mean, it's not to say, like, actually at the PC Gamer Weekend or Q&A with the Overwatch devs over this past weekend, they addressed that a little bit. I believe it was head writer Michael Chu, although it could have been one of the other devs, who said they really took the ARG lessons to heart. But having said that, they're not particularly not going to do an ARG again in the future. He even gave a little hint. It's not to say that, who's to say that the next ARG hasn't even started or might have already started.
It's Frog Fractions 3.
Oh, God.
Which him having said that a few days before the Effie announcement, you could call it an ARG in that we're getting these teases and information about the characters in advance of the actual reveal. The big thing about the Sombra ARG was it just went on way, way, way too long, and players really who actually were playing the ARG had very little agency in it.
So I mean, besides new character speculation, I mean, there's been some pretty major changes coming to.
There has been a fair bit of other stuff, slightly less newsworthy. This stuff's been known about for a few weeks now.
Right.
But the current Overwatch PTR has a lot of new stuff being tested out right now. And considering they haven't done any changes on it in the last week or two, it's seeming pretty likely that the stuff on the PTR right now is going to make it to live. That stuff being two main things. One, Bastion got pretty much a rework, overhaul, whatever you want to call it. Right. Bastion has been one of the least played, most neglected characters in all of Overwatch.
Really?
He's very powerful. Yeah, basically he. Well, I don't want to say he because technically Bastion is an it. It is a genderless robot. Bastion got some reworks back in beta, but since then has seen they haven't made any changes to the character until now.
All right. Okay.
And it's a weird character in that the best way to kind of describe him is he's a cheesy character.
Okay.
And a cheese in the same sense of a Zerg Rush cheese in StarCraft and things like that, where it's very powerful to if you catch somebody off guard. However, very easy to counter and shut down if you know it's coming.
Right.
So to that end, Bastion saw very, very little play at the high-end level, and even at lower-end levels as the professional and high-end meta tends to trickle down to the lower-end team compositions. Pretty much picking Bastion was automatically thought of as a troll pick, or people would throw the game. It's like, oh, we got an attack Bastion, whereas the Bastion rework feels really powerful and feels really good. He's kind of been reworked into, for one, his its recon mode, which is the mobile mode where you can walk around. His spread has been reduced considerably, so it's much more of a hit scan in the same vein as Soldier. Not
That's
quite
exciting
as
to me.
not quite as powerful as Soldier or as McCree, but much more viable. And then the Sentry mode, his turret mode, can't critical hit anymore and has much more spread. However, which means it's kind of much more of a tank buster for taking down barriers and big characters like that. So as opposed to being kind of a long-range super sniper that can just wreck people infinitely with this, long-range hit scan, high-power damage weapon. And on top of that, there's a few other little tweaks. It has a heal that can be used on the move, has some damage reduction when in turret and tank mode, as well as the time shifting between Sentry and Recon mode has been decreased by about half a second, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it really makes a big difference in terms of swapping on the fly in the middle of battle. If you're going to be
tank busting, I feel like you would need to move quickly.
Yeah,
get in, get out.
It makes it feel much more, gives you a lot more just viability on the battlefield rather than before, when you were playing Bastion, you really had to basically just go set up a turret nest and just kind of sit there and hope your team protected you. Whereas the new version, you really feel like you can run into a battle, be viable in recon mode at all, and then when you have an opportunity, swap into Sentry mode, take somebody down, swap back out, run away, heal a bit. So I'm pretty excited just about kind of mixing up the meta a bit. And we've seen a lot of the triple tank meta in competitive and such that hopefully Bastion will kind of help shake up a little bit more.
Well, that's exciting to me because Bastion's been one of the characters I just don't play a lot for that cheese reason. I just am inherently annoyed by Bastion because most of the time I encounter Bastion is in a cheese situation, and it just doesn't feel viable. I don't like to be the cheeser. But now that my favorite characters have hit scan weapons and are generally tank busters, because I like getting in there and disrupting an entire team like that. That sounds cool.
Yeah, I'll say, like, if the current version that's on the PTR makes it onto live, it will almost certainly be nerfed. Because right now, Bastion is very, very powerful. Then again, a lot of people said that Sombra was going to be way overpowered, and Sombra ended up being kind of not great at all.
Right.
So, we really just have to wait and see once this stuff goes live. But yeah, he feels very, very powerful right now.
Cool. Sweet. Is there anything else on the Overwatch?
Yeah, there is, believe it or not, more in the world of Overwatch.
Let's run through it for the sake of our...
The one other really big thing coming to the game is Overwatch now has a custom game browser.
Oh my God! How could I forget?
Which is really, really cool.
That's cool.
Feature been missing from, kind of critical to PC FPS games, and it's been missing from Overwatch so far.
Yeah.
The server browser is really cool. It gives you a nice vacation, I want to say, from the standard, quick player competitive modes that can, are a lot of fun, but can get kind of repetitive after a while. There's been some really cool custom games on the server browser.
That's right.
built so far.
You put together a list of those, right?
Yeah, I
so
put together
far?
a list.
Oh,
There's only 4 in the article I put together so far, but there's a handful there. There's pull one up. Best Overwatch custom games. If you guys want to check these out. Yeah, there's a common thread among a lot of custom games is to make a kind of boss fight type situation, because with the custom game browser or server browser, they've also let you tweak all sorts of stuff in the settings of the game, meaning you can crank up the movement speed, projectile speed, ability cooldowns, everything like that. So here we have a mode called Lucio Racing, which is just Lucio's on Nimbani with the movement speed cranked up to the max and just running back and forth, playing around. So you can do some really cool stuff. The boss fight modes I was talking about, people will set like a 1v6 where you have like 6 kind of underpowered characters. Maybe you've turned off their abilities or made them do less damage, versus a single like overpowered Roadhog or Reinhardt with like 500% health and 200% damage, who can basically one-shot you and takes a ton to take down, but can a 1v6 situation can be a lot of fun.
Right on. Well, it's a long overdue thing, and I feel like a lot of games just nowadays don't bother with a custom server browser, so it's good to see Blizzard.
It's nice to see it added in, and I think it'll add a lot of nice longevity to the game. And, also it lets the community kind of play test things and say, like, maybe go in and say maybe soldiers should have, 5% less damage that he's currently at, or test out these things and tweak them. Obviously Blizzard isn't going to take all of their balance tips from the community, but it at least lets us kind of try these things out rather than just speculating about them.
Sweet. Well, I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more from that in the future. And I definitely think we should get some kind of PC gamer thing going on one of these servers sometime soon. But we'll see.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for the Boverwatch Bupdate, Bo. I'm looking forward to hearing more from that. Sorry, Steven. You didn't do the hand. There it is. There it is. All right.
Just for you.
Let me see those emoticons. Let's see those emojis, everybody.
Spam Steven's dad in the chat.
Steven's dad in
the
the
new
chat.
Kappa.
God damn it. So let's move on real quick to video game movies. And this comes up a lot, and it's because, movies are supposedly cursed video game adaptations. But I saw this headline that kind of grabbed me, and it gave me a bit of hope for what could be a potential, thank you, Evan, leading the charge, potentially cool video game movie, and that's Metal Gear Solid. The headline here on PCGamer.com is Metal Gear Solid movie could take the Deadpool or Logan route, and that to me is pretty exciting. We have Jordan Vogt Roberts. I don't know how to say his name. Vogt. I don't Roberts,
know.
Who recently directed or is directing, Kong Skull Island, which may or may not be awful or great. Is currently working with Hideo Kojima to make a Metal Gear Solid movie. It was confirmed a couple years ago, but he recently started talking again and brought it up.
I feel like the Metal Gear Solid movie is one of those things that's always kind of in production
always
or something.
Been there, right?
But yeah, we'll maybe finally actually see.
Yeah, and I think that's why when I saw the Deadpool or Logan route headline, I thought, okay, yeah, I think today more than ever in 2017, you could see a Metal Gear Solid
maybe finally work. Yeah,
and what he meant by that in the body was that it would be a lower budget film, but focused on character, and he referred to the however many, like almost 100 years of the Metal Gear Solid timeline and all the characters across it, and said you could just focus on any month in that game and how characters relate in that short time and make something interesting. And I want to know what you guys think of that approach to making a game movie, and if you think a Metal Gear Solid movie could work on a smaller scale like that. And B, start thinking about this. If you were, if you could make a game movie, I want to hear your pitch. What would it be, right? And who would you have starring in it?
Ooh,
in the
curveball. Curveball.
So,
it would be genital jousting.
damn it! I was gonna do that. Did I see that in the chat
Is it
earlier?
genital
I think I saw-
jousting starring Stephen and James?
Oh my god! Yes. Actually, I was
Did
thinking
we go
Matt
too
Damon, Mark Wahlberg, Big Dumb Dick Suits, Michael Bay. I mean, that's basically already a movie.
Yeah, isn't that a movie? Isn't that Pain and Gain?
Yeah, Pain and Gain. Basically, Pain and Gain is,
But with more
is genital
dicks.
jousting, right? The subtext of that movie.
100%.
So do you guys think?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and I totally think you're right about this, the potential there, going the Deadpool or Logan route.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the biggest problems of video game movies is they focus way too much on it making it video gamey and a lot of time the story of games are not actually that great, and what we like about games with good stories is good characters. And if you think about even like GTA 5, for example, like the actual story of GTA 5 is like pretty generic and convoluted, and it's like, who really cares? No. But you think of that as a great story game because it has great characters. Yeah. And that's just the first one that came to mind there, but there are a lot of games like that. Even Mass Effect, like the actual story of Mass Effect is pretty generic sci-fi.
It's pretty,
but the characters are what make it great. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that a character-focused movie that doesn't care too much about a story that has to be adventure or explosions or whatever could be really cool. And yeah, I think Mass Effect. I think Metal Gear Solid. The other thing that was called out in this article here was that the idea behind it was not the idea behind it, but they wanted to go the hard R route, like really do what was necessary to make the right movie, and not make concessions. That was something that was called out way back when there was originally talk of there being a BioShock movie, which incidentally is one of the movies that I think could possibly work as a video game movie. But yeah, you can't do a BioShock movie at PG-13. Like, it needs to be an R-rated movie. And yeah, that's something that Deadpool and now Logan has shown is that you can make an R-rated superhero movie. And so yeah, to make an R-rated video game movie,
seems possible.
Not that it needs to be rated R particularly, but just having that. When I say that, not that it needs to be like particularly gory or have a bunch of sex and guns and stuff like that, but just having the freedom. Mature. Yeah, mature and have that freedom to really explore these topics that, the topics that make these games good.
Cool. Real quick, I just want to shout out, I totally missed this, and I apologize wholeheartedly. Knifu, 1 year subscription.
Woo! It's my boy.
Gamer. So thank you so much, Knifu. That really means a lot to us. We love having you around. You're a positive force in the chat, and we want to, here's to another 12 months. Thanks. Thanks for the rundown there. I think I agree totally. But now let's go. I want to hear, like, real quick, your elevator pitches for, like, if genital jousting is really your pitch here, Steven.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I want to know.
No.
Okay,
I got a few.
Okay, let's hear them.
Okay, I took some time. Okay, so first one, an art house industrial horror film.
Oh, shit.
Off to a good start or a bad start.
Half-Life with Bryan Cranston as the lead.
Nice.
Interesting. Who's directing this?
Richard Linklater.
I'd watch the fuck out of that.
It starts when he's just a child, and then over 40 years, we really get inside of Gordon Freeman, but he doesn't speak a single word. That's what gives it the art house feel. I'm real good at movie pitches.
You broke me, man. You broke me.
Steven, you're fired.
You're done. Any others? That's a good one. That's a great A. Bo, did you have any?
I think I saw this in the chat earlier. It might have been one from JBJ Blaze, or did I say that right?
Yep.
JBJ Blaze. I think an Overwatch movie actually would be pretty cool. There's a lot of lore and story there that Blizzard does a good job of exploring in these kind of connected threads between the animated shorts and the comics.
Yeah.
And I think like a movie exploring like the Omnic Crisis, the first big Omnic War, would be really cool.
That would be great.
Kind of the precursor to, and that's the thing about Overwatch as the actual game, is the game itself kind of takes place in this like frozen moment in time where we're like in the setting with these characters, but they're not actually doing anything plot related, but there is this whole narrative arc going on outside of the actual game.
Yeah.
And so I think that could be, explored in a really cool way.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
I would love to see like a Pixar Avengers kind of movie. And I feel like Overwatch kind of is the Venn diagram middle section of that.
That would be really cool. I mean, Pixar Avengers is what, like Incredibles, kind of? Was that even Pixar? Yeah, that was Pixar.
I think
Or DreamWorks?
Blizzard has shown their openness to making, film adaptations of their properties. Warcraft maybe wasn't the best example of that, and I think the lesson they learned from that might be, hey, we're a big ass company, maybe we can exercise some more control over what comes out. And Overwatch seems like, I don't know. I said this about Valve and Team Fortress 2. I wish they would have made a movie, but they don't. And the same applies to Blizzard. They probably don't need to.
Yeah.
Right. But if they did, it would be cool.
I mean, on the subject of the Warcraft movie, I say this having not seen it, but I feel like it plays into that same argument we were just talking about, is that it was too much of an adventure-y, video gamey movie and not enough.
Check out this Easter egg.
Yeah, and not enough character development of the character, like getting into these human or orc stories.
Right.
Character-based stories.
I would love to see. I mean, I haven't seen the Warcraft movie either, but from what I've heard people say about it, like they're trying to condense the entire world of Warcraft into a movie. I would kind of be excited if video game movies took more of like the Marvel Netflix approach of telling smaller stories inside of these bigger universes. Like it would be cool to have a Warcraft movie that wasn't trying to encompass the entire, struggle of orcs versus humans, but just a Warcraft movie that was kind of focused on one character's personal story inside of that universe.
Yeah, because a lot of video games, especially these big budget games with these sprawling years and decades and centuries long backstories, a thing that video games do really well is world building, and that's something that can be really, really cool. In that is a large part of a good story, is the world building. But the struggle of video game movies is adapting a single player story, a single not only singular hero's journey, but one that is controlled by the player, adapting that into a narrative arc that matters. And so, if you basically use the video game as a world building jumping off point, and then explore, a character driven story within that world, then that's, I think, would make for a much more interesting video game movie.
Yeah. I got another pitch.
You got one?
Okay. It's fairly obvious, but the casting, I think, is really strong. Okay, so Resident Evil 7, the movie, but Jack Baker is played by James Cromwell. You might remember as the farmer from Babe.
Jesus, deep pull. All right.
And Margaret is played by Kathy Bates from Fried Green Tomatoes. And among other things. Do you know who these people are?
I do. Yeah. I mean,
Google
Kathy Bates
them.
from like Misery and a lot of other stuff. Yeah.
Imagine Kathy Bates with a centipede crawling out of her mouth. That is horrific imagery.
Yeah.
That'll do, pig.
That'll do.
That'll do. Chase me down the hall. I can see that.
I don't want to see that movie just because
I think that we already have something called Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
That's true.
I mean,
Yeah.
Resident Evil 7 is a mashup of every horror movie ever at this point. But I agree. I think it'd be interesting to see that. I wrote one a year ago or something. I just remembered Rocket League. Now get this: it's a cross-media phenomenon in which we have. Think of it framed as a Space Jam, right?
I'm already on board.
So overwrought CGI cars and a bunch of bullshit, starring like actual athletes in some long distant future. LeBron James, who do I have here? Ronda Rousey, Patrick Kane, some other folks, and professional esports players. It's the convergence of the two worlds,
Nice.
sports and esports. So you have Fatality Shocks, Rainad. I had PewDiePie in here, but I don't think so anymore. As he's not even an esports guy, but it's just like a dopey character. And just some overwrought CGI like battle royale. Think of it like a Space Jam meets Fast and the Furious, or
I like it.
The Furious.
So in this fictional future world,
Yeah.
is it the sports versus the esports? Are they
Yeah,
having
I
a
think-
showdown,
I think
or is it
that's
What's
like
the metaphor?
well, that's it.
what I want to see is very in line with Space Jam, where it's like this alien race comes down and is like, we challenge you to soccer cars.
Yes.
And the only people, and so the Earth puts together this fighting force that consists of both the greatest athletes in the world plus the greatest esports athletes in the world.
Yeah.
And that is the dream team.
No, right? That's
that
exactly what I
defeats
thought
the
of.
aliens.
So it's just the arc that starts is it's just the traditional sports athletes, but they're missing this X factor, and they
Yeah.
realize that they have to accept that esports athletes are real athletes. Can't even say it with a straight face. Have to accept that they're real athletes, and together, like this rivalry between real and fake, not fake athletes. I'm digging myself in a bad hole. Esports athleticism, they have to put aside their differences for the
like it.
greater.
You guys are reading my mind, right?
Thank
Doesn't
you,
it
man.
sounds?
This
it
sounds like I would watch this movie.
it's yeah.
Tune into the next episode when we sit down and spec this script out.
God, it'd be so great. But yeah, some good ideas, fellas. I think we can workshop a few and get rich quick. But for now, let's just talk about video games. Speaking of video games, we need you to help us talk about them because we need some questions. It's Twitch chat Q&A time. If you have movie pitches yourself or questions about any game that's out right now, any game that's ever come out, in all of time and history for the PC, ask us questions. If you need some relationship advice from, well, no, none of us. Just ask us
Just
about
ask
video.
us some questions, and we will say that we are
I'll
not.
give you
as,
relationship advice. It
That's
won't
what-
be good.
That seems to be a
relationship
trope.
advice.
I've listened to multiple video game podcasts growing up, and a lot of them devolved over the years into just giving out relationship advice, and it made
Yep.
me think that's a bad idea for a bunch of dudes in a hot room.
Isn't that the
to
only
dole
time
out.
to answer relationship advice?
So give us your questions.
If you asked one earlier in the show, please ask it again. We're not quite as Twitch chat savvy as our fallen friend, Mr. Tom Marks.
Tag
I
us-
say fallen friend as he is not fallen. He is only on
Fallen
vacation.
London. That's all I got.
London has fallen.
Tag PC Gamer in the question, please. We'll hit up subscriber questions first, and get to the rest soon. James, you're still growing up. If you're listening on YouTube or your favorite podcast subscription tool, then stop by 1 p.m. every Wednesday Pacific time, and drop some questions in the chat then. Otherwise, yeah, let's hear him. Let's see here. We got a couple coming in. All right. Varen Deal asks, now that we have a decent amount of info about Mass Effect Andromeda, is there anything in particular that has you excited or concerned? So we just saw a new combat video, right? That just came out. They're doing a series right now. What about you? What do you guys think? Are you guys worried at all, or?
I don't think I'm not particularly worried. I enjoy the Mass Effect games a fair bit. I have paid very little attention to Andromeda. I'm kind of just, I'm not intentionally going like media dark on it, but I'm just gonna let it come out, and then I'm
Yeah.
just gonna play it. I think I will enjoy it. Of the few things that I have heard, I'm pretty excited about the removal of the Paragon.
Yes.
What is it? Paragon Nemesis? No.
Renegade.
Paragon Renegade. Yeah, the Paragon Renegade system,
Yes.
or at least the purely granular, like good bad.
Yeah.
I don't. I think Wes is or will be talking a bit in the future about how what replaces it, but at the least, from what I gather, it's just a bit more kind of open ended, and lets you make your choices without a worry of I'm being too bad or too good, and lets your character just kind of evolve naturally.
Yeah.
Whenever
Yeah.
I played Mass Effect games in the past, I always made a commitment to myself that I would ignore the right trigger or left trigger to make this decision and just do whatever I felt my character would do.
But then you get punished for it.
Yeah, exactly, and it sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was always annoying, and I think like BioWare has been very vocal about like leaving that system behind. The whole games industry as a whole is just like, we're good with that. It was novel, so.
Well, I feel like it was a weird thing because maybe I'm totally wrong on this, but I felt like the morality meter was this weird holdover from the Knights of the Old Republic games, where it made sense to have the Sith and the Jedi, and the decisions you made pushed you one way or the other. But then once BioWare left that series behind, and Obsidian too, they just sort of kept it, and it was like, but that doesn't make any sense when it comes to just regular good or evil.
Yeah, it made a ton of sense in the context of the light side and dark side, where you're like making these choices of like, I don't want to kill this guy, but I really want to be able to force choke people. And if I kill this guy, I'm going to get a bunch of dark force points and, dark side points, and then gets me closer to that, gets me one step closer to force lightning.
Yeah.
Or, on the flip side, you're like trying to be good, but then they give you this choice. And, I thought that was even if it was kind of simplistic and granular at the time, it was a good way to use a morality system. But Steven, you're very much right that it's a holdover from those days that outside of this, you're being rewarded for being good or bad or something.
Yeah.
It's not really necessary.
Personally, what concerns me most is the structure of the overall game, the flow, and the larger. I don't want to call them open worlds, but the spaces, planetary spaces you'll explore, because Dragon Age Inquisition had some really beautiful open levels. I don't want to call them worlds, but they were huge, right? And
the maps, I guess
maps,
you could say. Zones.
But they were just kind of littered with collecty, very shallow stuff.
I totally know what you're saying. I might be in the minority, but I actually love Dragon Age Inquisition.
I love that game too, but I feel like a lot of the extraneous stuff wasn't super.
Yeah.
I mean, it might have been entertaining, in a very simple, lizard brain game way.
There were definitely there were parts of Inquisition where I don't remember the name of the map, but there was one map that had a pretty cool kind of storyline within this map. There was a castle that was under siege, and you had to you started out in the trenches fighting off zombies, and then you meet the guard captain, and then he unlocks the bridge, and you end up retaking this castle. However, I happened to come to this zone when I was over leveled for it, so I basically just blew through this quest line just for the sake of kind of seeing it, but it wasn't even. I was barely even playing at that point because I was 10 levels too high for this area, and it made me feel like I kind of missed out on this cool storyline. And so there are ways to have interesting stories within open worlds or open zones or whatnot, but it is a challenge, and that is a concern now that you have brought it up. That
I just want meaningful use of space, and instead of, even if it's just a set dressing, a majestic set dressing, I'm okay with that. But I don't know. We'll see how I literally know nothing about how that's going to work. So, but that game comes out next month, which is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the sake of that time, we'll move on and get a couple more in here. CNote0824 asks, where are all the VR games? Starting to buy into the whole VR is just a phase argument. Where are the VR games, Steven? Where are they at? Did you take them? Did you take them?
I didn't take them.
Huh. I don't know where they're at.
I don't know either.
Well, that's not true. I think VR games are coming out, but it's also very expensive to buy and not a safe thing to develop for at the moment because the install base is so low, unless you have some kind of capital rolling in.
I don't think they're a phase. I think that they will continue to be a thing and possibly even more of a thing in the future. But so much of it has to do with the install base, getting more headsets in the hands of consumers, the tech catching up with, with what people want to do here, which, kind of on that note, what's kind of exciting, at least in terms of like the hardware market, is like we've sort of reached critical mass in that you can hit 1080, 60 with pretty weak hardware at this point. So unless you're going for like crazy high frame rates or 4K, which is totally unnecessary in most cases, you really don't need a super high-end rig. So it makes you kind of think like, where is the hardware market going to go? Like, how are they going to keep people interested in buying new stuff? And I mean, in addition to, better resolutions, which I guess we'll care more and more about in the future, like VR is a future there, and having this more and more access to better hardware that will then let us have these VR experiences in a stable environment. The easier it is for that to happen, the safer it will feel for developers to develop for those systems, and vice versa. The more the more we will see.
Yeah, it seems like a matter of just time and money at this point. But,
and like to that end, we're still in the very, very early days of VR as a platform. It's not just like it's not like a console being in the early days of a console where there's not much stuff, but at least people knew it was coming and people have been developing for it, and you're just kind of developing for a new architecture. Like VR is a whole new archetype of game. Like the conventional design wisdom that goes into making a game doesn't have to be, but very often can be very different for making a VR game. And so people are we've seen some really cool explorations of VR and uses of it, but it's not at critical mass yet. And so to that end, very much the more cool experiences happen, the more people will learn from them and build on them, and we'll start seeing more and more games.
Yep. Sit tight. It's coming, I think, probably, hopefully. Couple more quick ones here. Jules M, you guys get your Nintendo Switch yet? Yep, pre-ordered. Moving on. Sorry, guys. I'm not gonna
Switch
that.
gamer.
Yeah. Jamie J. Blaze. Well, I think we'll close out on this one. What fictional world do you most want to immerse yourself into if and or when adapted into a game? So I think what he's asking is any world from books, television,
books, movies, TV,
whatever it is. What do you want to explore most?
Harry Potter.
But like done well.
Harry Potter. He goes there. Of all the fucking... Of every fictional universe ever created, you go to house elves and whatever, like grungle roots and I don't even. Is that a thing?
Owls.
Owls
are
I'm pretty sure owls. Whomping willows.
Oh my god! Actually, I love Harry Potter, so I'm with you. That'd be
cool. Get out of here.
Gotta call you.
Yeah, the Harry Potter games are not great. They could be better.
They're too whimsical.
I would love, imagine a Harry Potter game, but in the style of Rockstar's Bully.
Yeah.
And how
fuck.
Yeah, I've heard that idea thrown around, and that would be really cool.
Right?
You're just going to class and doing stuff. Yeah, like I don't really care about exploring the story of Harry and Ron and Hermione.
Nobody wants to be Harry Potter.
Just
everybody wants to just go to school with him.
Yeah, totally. I think that'd be pretty cool. What's one for me?
I'm thinking here.
You got anything, James?
I read a lot. And oh man, how do any answer I give is going to make me sound like a pretentious jerkbag. But I have two big fat book universes I want to check out. One, Moby Dick, which I think would just make a beautiful, like, I want more whaling games, like whaling era games. Seriously.
I want more whaling games.
You may be the only one.
I'm serious. Like, I love reading books.
Assassin's Creed Black Flag must have been a real highlight for you.
I actually hated that game, but it didn't do it.
Not
right.
enough whaling.
Not enough whaling. I want like dark ass, like awful people who are in it for the money or just like desperate alcoholics, like out on the ocean. They have nothing better to do or nothing else they can do. Killing whales and like spilling their. I want it to be gross and nasty. That or Infinite Jest, because it's just a weird near future that would make, I don't know, it would make for some good. Like open world antics, I think. Just because everything is sort of off and bizarre. In that book, it could be a very funny like GTA style setting. But yeah, those are mine.
Harry Potter was my non-serious answer. If I actually had to go seriously, I would probably do something like Dune would be fantastic.
Dune would be rad.
I don't know. There's lots of good sci-fi. Isaac Asimov's Foundation would be a cool VR world, I think.
Anything, Bo?
I think that once this is less about them making a game about it right now and more about a hypothetical future, but I do think it would be pretty cool to have the type of immersive VR MMO type thing that is seen in, to my mind, in something like Snow Crash,
Delivery,
or to a much more derivative version in Ready Player One.
Okay,
but just these types of, it's the kind of quintessential like gamer type dream type thing.
Yeah, I'm with you. I understand.
But yeah, it's obviously far future, but I think it'd be pretty cool. Seeing some cool answers in the chat.
Yeah, I'll list a couple and then we'll close out here. But an RPG set in the Blood Meridian world, that'd be fucked up.
All of you saying Game of Thrones? No, you don't want to go to the Game of Thrones world.
Too easy.
Don't go there. It's just like everybody's cold and dead. Like you don't want that.
Everyone's cold and dead. Sounds like Canada.
Discworld.
Discworld's pretty good.
Great. I think Chris recommended that, or in some answer. Stephen King's The Stand. Sure, yeah. Or just hell, the Dark Tower world would be interesting.
Oh yeah.
Ancillary Justice says Scarfington. Will, I don't know what that is, man. Diamond Age. What about
Diamond Age. Potentially same universe as Snow Crash.
Oh wow! Here it is. Here's what we'll close out on, everyone. The ultimate, most engaging, beautiful video game world comes to us from Colin R80. War and Peace, the video game. I look forward to it, Colin. I look forward to it. With that, we're gonna cap off the show, the PC Gamer Show for today. If you want to watch the show later, or catch it in the future, you can go to youtube.com/PCGamer. If you want to catch it live every Wednesday at 1 p.m. PT, it's at twitch.tv/PCGamer, or you can find us on iTunes, or go to PCGamer.com and check out the podcast post if you want to subscribe to the RSS feed there, or just listen to it in your browser, or save it on an old MP3 player if you only have an iPod Shuffle or whatever that is. So, all right. Well, that's going to do it. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.